So my friends, I know that this is a video a lot of you have been waiting for, so here we go. It's a comparison video between the Valerion VisionMaster Pro 2, the Xgimi Horizon S Max, and the JMGO N1S Ultimate. Let's get started. Don't forget to hit the red button to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up and click the notification bell to get my next video first. So here are the 10 sections that we're going to be comparing all three projectors head to head. Just to let you know also folks that none of the manufacturers are sponsoring this video, and so therefore all of these thoughts will be my own, and I'll be allocating a score out of 10 for each one of these sections. So just before we get into the main part of the video, what's in the box of each of these projectors? Well, with the JMGO and the Valerion, you do get a carry case, but you don't with the Xgimi. But other than that, they're all pretty similar in terms of the projector, a remote control, and the power adapter. Now for me, there is only one winner on connectivity, and that is the Valerion. It is absolutely packed full of connections. It has 3 HDMI, one of these supports eARC, 2 USBs, 1 optical, and a LAN port. The Xgimi is definitely the worst one out of the lot. It only has 1 HDMI port and 2 USB ports. It doesn't even have an audio out. And the JMGO N1S Ultimate, well, that's somewhere in between. So I'm giving these a score of 5 for the Xgimi, 7 for the N1S Ultimate, and 10 for the VisionMaster Pro. It couldn't get any better. When it comes to design, I know that this is down to personal choice. For me, there's two here that are head and shoulders above the other one, and that's the Xgimi and also the Valerion. I love the Xgimi with the drop-down dust cover. That adds a bit of theatre and really looks stylish. Plus, it's also got a premium feel with the materials that it's using. The Valerion is built like a tank, and it looks absolutely stunning. If anything, it's over-engineered. But the one thing that the Valerion doesn't have that the other two do is the gimbal, which obviously is a key factor. It does have a little kickstand at the bottom, so that does give you some leverage, and you've got optical zoom on this one, so therefore that is a feature which needs to be considered. But not having the turntable, not having the gimbal, means that you don't get the same flexibility. But with the JMGO, you are more limited than the Xgimi because all of the connections are at the bottom. And this means when you do plug in an HDMI port, you may be restricted in terms of its operation. So that's something which you need to consider. So scores on this, I'm going to be giving it like this. The 8 is going to go to the JMGO, the 9 is going to go to the Valerion, and I'm going to give 10 to the Xgimi. There's a clear winner when it comes down to remote control, and that is the Valerion, because that's the one that's got the premium feel, and it's also backlit. The Xgimi is also premium feel, but it doesn't have shortcut buttons, and it's not backlit, and so therefore here are my scores. 5 for the JMGO, 6 for the Xgimi, and 9 for the Valerion. Okay, portability. Now I'm looking at two factors here. One, if you were going to be taking this around, well, then the Valerion and the JMGO do come with their own carry case. In fact, the Valerion is almost bomb-proof. But obviously not having the gimbal and not having the turntable on the bottom does mean that the flexibility of where you place it is not necessarily a problem, but it's just a little bit more awkward, whereas the others you can take and set up within seconds. Now I'm going to give you a demonstration now of the keystone correction, because that obviously is a key feature as well, because if you're going to be straight on, then it's no problem at all with the Valerion. But if you are going to be off at an angle and pointing that gimbal up, well then you want to know how quick and how well the keystone correction is. Now all of them do a fantastic job. These are all premium products, and I don't think anyone's going to have any issue. With the light bleed, you'll notice that the light bleed handling on the JMGO is definitely better than on the Xgimi. And they do produce quite a small image, but because the throw ratio is better on the Valerion, from the same distance you will get a bigger screen. So providing you're not off too much of an angle and you don't need to be shining onto the ceiling, for instance, then the Valerion probably is the better of the choices. However, it still doesn't give you the same portability and flexibility that the other two do. All of these projectors will adjust the screen and auto keystone when you move the projector, but with the JMGO and the Xgimi you get that instant picture, so there is no cutoff where it has to then reposition and send out that white light for you to get the right picture. It basically adjusts on the fly, repositioning and also focusing so that you're getting the best possible experience and the quickest. So here are my scores for that. I'm giving 8 to both the JMGO and the Xgimi and just a 7 to the Valerion. Okay, so it's about time we compared the picture quality, and let's start off with daylight viewing. Just to explain, I'm in this room here, which is around 12 by 12, and I'm going to be projecting all three projectors from the same position on a screen which is an ALR screen around about 10 feet away. Now we do have a little bit of a difference in terms of the brightness. The Horizon S Max from Xgimi is 3100 ISO lumens, the N1S Ultimate is 3500 ANSI lumens, and the VisionMaster Pro is 3000 ISO lumens. Just to let you know, I've tested all of these and they're all there or thereabouts with their claims. The only one which is going to not surprise you that I struggled to achieve was the 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio, dynamic contrast ratio with Xgimi, but I will come on to that a little bit later. Now, when you see these images on screen, you may think that they look identical. However, when you're in the room and actually looking at them, there's two clear winners, and that is the Xgimi and the Valerion. The JMGO with its higher black floor just doesn't achieve the same contrast levels that the Xgimi and the Valerion does. However, I would say that the Valerion just edges it, and this will be a theme in this video. Every person that I asked what they preferred that came to my house preferred the Valerion, and that was in daylight and in night conditions. There is just almost like a TV OLED type quality to the image that it produces. The Xgimi, I didn't think it would get as close when I did the actual head-to-head side-by-side, but the Xgimi is also phenomenal. It really does have a feel of quality about it. So anyway, I can't be bothered with half marks, so I'm giving it 9 to the Valerion, 8 to the Xgimi, and 7 to the JMGO. So one question that came up straight away when I did the Valerion review was the enhanced black levels, and is it any good? Well, in these few clips here, hopefully you can see how good a job it does. It is quite astounding when you have it on at the bottom, obviously, and off at the top. It really is the difference between night and day. Now, you won't necessarily see these big comparison differences when I'm doing all of the projectors head to head, but this is the difference that you get from the Valerion when the enhanced black level is turned off compared to it being on. Okay, for the darker room scenes, I enhanced the black and extra contrast levels on all of the projectors in order to give the best possible result. And again, without a doubt, there was one clear winner, and that is the Valerion. What this Valerion does is it handles every single scene just as you would want it to. So there isn't the inconsistencies, and I'll show you a couple of freeze frames in a second where I had inconsistencies on the other two. But everything from the sharpness to how it handles the highlights, it's not blown out at all, everything just looks fantastic. Don't get me wrong, I was really impressed with the Xgimi again. It handled these scenes with the bright lights and the water really well, but there were other scenes that it didn't do as well. In this scene, for instance, it seems to have lost its colour, and also when you actually freeze frame it, it just looks a little bit off. You're not getting the same black level that you're getting on the Valerion, and with the Valerion you're getting the shadow detail, but you're still retaining the blacks, which you're not getting on the JMGO. So it's subtle, but when you put these all together, it's really noticeable when you're watching something, and that's what gives you that premium feel to the Valerion. And I do have to keep on stressing, folks, we are splitting hairs between these because they are all absolutely fantastic. And if you walked into any room with any one of these on, you would think that they were brilliant. But this is another example here where you can see the raised black on the Xgimi. And here you can see the extra sharpness that you're getting on the Valerion compared to the JMGO. In this example, if you look at the lady's hair, the Valerion just makes it look almost real, whereas the other two, it looks fantastic, don't get me wrong, but just not quite as good. And again, with this scene again, the Valerion just pips the other two. So what the Valerion actually feels like is it's got the best bits from the Xgimi and the best bits from the JMGO. It's got rid of the things which are not so good about those other two, and it's merged together to create almost the perfect picture, as you can see from this example very clearly. So my scoring for this is 10 to the Valerion, 9 to the Xgimi, and 8 to the JMGO. Focus and sharpness on all three of these projectors is fantastic. I'll show you them each individually so you can see it full screen, and then I will put them head to head. So the Valerion, as you can see, no issues at all four corners absolutely perfect. Now the Xgimi, and again there is no issue at all. Here's the JMGO, and now here are all three of them together. So all very similar, you would think. However, I did have an issue with the JMGO. For some reason, even though I ran the focus calibration, each time I turned the projector on, it just felt about 5% out of focus, as you can see from this screen. So it just seemed to reset to an out of focus mode, and I don't know why it was. And that was the same whether it was daylight or night. And so I had to quickly go to the focus, and then make an adjustment. Now, that isn't a problem. It took me 30 seconds to do, but it's just not quite as good as the others. So I'm going to give 10 to the Xgimi and to the Valerion and 9 to the JMGO. The operating system with these lifestyle type projectors is actually really important. Having everything in one box definitely is the way forward. 2 of the 3 run Google TV, that's the Valerion and also the JMGO, and so therefore they're fine. They both score 10 out of 10. But Xgimi, what were you thinking? Android TV in 2024, and you've only got one HDMI port, so it's not like I can plug loads of extra devices in. So I'm going to mark you down quite heavily on this because I think it is a massive oversight. 10 to the other 2, 6 to the Xgimi. So folks, we're nearing the end now, but let's come on to fan noise. This obviously is important. You don't want to be hearing a very loud fan. Now, all of these started off with a room reading of around 25 to 26 decibels. They peaked to different levels during the turn-on process, but then they all came out almost identically at around the 27 to 29, something in between there. So they're all super quiet. I'm going to give them all 10 points. Now, when it comes to gaming, there is only really one winner, and that's down to the input lag on the Valerion, getting as low as 4.8 milliseconds at 1080p at 240 Hz. Absolutely stunning result. Don't get me wrong, the other 2 do remarkably well at under 20 milliseconds, but if you're really serious about gaming and you want the fastest possible response time, then definitely the Valerion is the way to go. So I'm going to give this one a 10 to the Valerion and a 9 to the other 2. Now finally, just before we give you the final scores, we wanted to just talk to you about the brightness and also the contrast claims on some of these projectors. Certainly when we measured it, we found that the brightness level, the peak brightness of the lumens suggested was pretty accurate right across the board. But we did find that the Xgimi, with a 1,000,000 to 1 contrast ratio, we just couldn't understand that. We got it out at around 12,000 in dynamic contrast, nowhere near 1,000,000. So I'd be interested to know how they've got that result. Anyway, folks, this is now the final scores on the table. And as you can see, there is one clear winner. Certainly, the Valerion is an incredible machine. Don't get me wrong, the other 2 are well worth the money that they're asking for them as well. But if you've only got one choice at the moment, then I would definitely take the Valerion. So my friends, to summarise, the Valerion does win and wins comfortably, and right across the board it felt like the better projector. It almost gives you that OLED type feel. It almost is a projector that you don't think you're watching a projector. It's much more like watching an OLED TV, but with the extra brightness. Don't get me wrong, if you want a gimbal, well then the other 2 are fantastic, and probably the Xgimi will definitely edge it, providing you're happy just with one HDMI port. But either way, guys, all 3 of these are fantastic. I can definitely recommend them. You won't be disappointed. Check out what is the best deal at the time that you're buying, and that could be the main reason for your purchase. Thanks for watching this video, my friends. I hope it's been helpful and you've seen some interesting things about all 3 of these projectors. See you on the next one.